We have reached the end of the era of the blue link. For 2 decades, we have been conditioned to accept a digital tax on our time. You enter a query, and instead of an answer, you are served a gauntlet of sponsored content, SEO optimized word salad, and a dozen trackers cataloging your intent for the highest bidder. Google has become a shopping mall where the maps have been replaced by advertisements. This is the hidden tax on your productivity. Every minute you spend scrolling past a sponsored result to find a genuine forum post or a technical manual is a minute of leaked enterprise value. In a world where liquidity is measured in milliseconds, and information arbitrage is the only way to stay ahead of the churn, the traditional search engine is no longer a tool. It is a bottleneck. But as the legacy giants struggle with the weight of their own ad revenue dependencies, a new breed of AI-native search engines has emerged to reclaim the internet. We are moving from search to synthesis. Today, we are diving deep into the 10 engines that are actually worth your bandwidth, dissecting the architecture, the economics, and the specific workflows that will save you hundreds of hours this year. But before we look at the first platform, there is a fundamental shift in how you must think about your data privacy, or you are going to find your proprietary workflows being used to train your biggest competitor's next model. The problem with the modern internet is not a lack of information, it is a surplus of garbage. We are living through a massive market failure where the signal-to-noise ratio has collapsed, largely because Google's algorithm prioritized length over depth to keep you on the page longer. Perplexity exists to solve this fragmentation by acting as a research librarian rather than a billboard. It doesn't just give you a link, it gives you a verified report. When you first land on the Perplexity interface, you are met with a strikingly clean, centered search bar that feels more like a workspace than a search engine. As you type, you'll notice the focus button on the left. This is where the magic happens. You can click that and toggle between all, academic, writing, or even specialized hubs like YouTube or Reddit. Once you hit enter, you don't see a list of results. You see a live streaming summary being written in real time, with small, numbered citations hovering over every claim. If you hover your mouse over those citations, a small preview window pops up showing you exactly which source provided that data point. On the right-hand sidebar, you see the source gallery, which allows you to audit the credibility of the information instantly. From a financial perspective, the ROI here is massive when you consider the cost of a junior research analyst. If you are paying an associate $30 an hour to aggregate market data, and Perplexity can synthesize a competitive landscape in 15 seconds, you are effectively reducing your research overhead by over 95%. For a small team, that is an annual savings of thousands of dollars in billable hours that can be redirected toward high-leverage execution. Imagine you are a venture capital analyst performing due diligence on a fintech startup in a niche market like cross-border B2B payments in Southeast Asia. Usually, you would spend hours navigating broken links and outdated PDF reports. With Perplexity, you can ask for a comparison of transaction fees across different regional corridors, and it will pull the latest data from trade journals and news sites, citing the exact figures for 2025 and 2026. It bypasses the SEO fluff and gives you the raw numbers you need to build your model. But here is the pro tip that most people miss: the collections feature. Instead of just searching, you can create a private collection and toggle the AI instructions to follow a specific persona, like a senior systems architect. Every search within that collection will then be processed through that specific lens, ensuring the technical depth remains enterprise-grade without you having to repeat your prompts. But be warned, if you rely on the free tier, you are limited on your daily use of the most advanced models, which could leave you stranded in the middle of a high-stakes project. The biggest hurdle in the AI revolution has been the knowledge cutoff. For the longest time, ChatGPT was like a genius trapped in a room with a library that stopped being updated 2 years ago. This created a massive gap in utility for anyone working in finance or tech, where yesterday's news is already priced into the market. ChatGPT Search was built to bridge this gap, combining the conversational nuance of a world-class LLM with real-time web access. It solves the problem of stale data that has plagued generative AI since its inception. The user experience is seamless because it is integrated directly into the chat interface you already know. When you click the small globe icon, or if the model detects you are asking about current events, the interface shifts. The sidebar on the right expands to show a curated list of web sources. As the response generates, you'll see hyperlinks embedded directly into the prose. You can click the Sources button at the bottom of the response to see a full-page breakdown of every site it visited. It feels like talking to a person who is browsing the web on a second monitor while they explain things to you. When you look at the enterprise-grade security features of the Plus and Team tiers, the value proposition becomes clear. By using the internal search rather than bouncing between a dozen different browser tabs, you are reducing the churn rate of your own focus. Studies on task switching suggest it takes about 20 minutes to regain deep focus after an interruption. By keeping your search and your synthesis in one window, you are saving potentially 2 hours of peak cognitive performance every single day. Let's say you are a developer trying to debug a breaking change in a library that was updated 3 hours ago. Google will show you Stack Overflow posts from 2018. ChatGPT Search will find the specific GitHub issue opened this morning, summarize the workarounds proposed by the community, and write the corrected code block for you in one motion. It turns a frantic search into a calm conversation. The hidden power move here is using the search feature in tandem with custom GPTs. You can build a GPT specifically for your company's internal documentation, and when you enable search, it can cross-reference your private data with public market trends. However, you need to be extremely careful with the default settings. Unless you are on an enterprise or team plan, your searches might be used to improve the model, which is a major compliance red flag if you are handling sensitive client data. Google isn't going down without a fight, but they are in a precarious position. They have to innovate without cannibalizing their primary source of recurring revenue, the ads. Gemini in AI mode is their attempt to give you the best of both worlds, and for anyone already deep in the Google ecosystem, the integration is hard to beat. The market failure they are addressing here is the friction between finding information and actually using it. The interface is accessible via the Gemini toggle at the top of a standard Google search or through the dedicated Gemini app. When you trigger a complex query, the traditional list of links is pushed down, and a large, multicolored gradient box appears. This is the AI overview. It often features a dynamic layout with images, bulleted steps, and a very prominent Google Docs or Gmail icon at the bottom. The navigation is designed to be a one-click funnel. You find the answer, click the export button, and it is instantly formatted into a professional email draft or a structured document. This is where the real fiscal advantage lies. If you are a project manager, the time spent formatting updates is a massive hidden cost. By using the Gemini integration, you are cutting the time from inquiry to delivery by about 70%. That is more than just a convenience. It's a competitive edge in a fast-moving market. Consider a situation where you need to coordinate a global team across 4 different time zones to address a server outage. You can use Gemini to search for the latest status reports from your cloud provider, synthesize the impact on your specific architecture, and immediately generate an internal memo for your stakeholders. It turns a frantic data-gathering mission into a structured communication workflow. The secret feature here is the Google Workspace extension. By typing the @ followed by Google Drive, you can ask Gemini to search the live web and compare it to your internal spreadsheets. You could ask it to find the current market price of a specific commodity and update your procurement forecast in real time. But here is the cynical truth. Google still wants you to click those ads. You'll notice that Gemini's answers often steer you toward products and services within the Google Partner Network, so you have to maintain a high level of skepticism regarding its recommendations. If you are tired of being the product, Brave Search is the exit ramp. The core market failure Brave addresses is the centralization of the web's index. Most search engines you use are actually just skins for Bing or Google. If those two companies decided to shadow ban a specific viewpoint or a niche competitor, they could effectively erase them from the internet. Brave has built its own independent index of the web, ensuring true decentralization. The interface is refreshingly minimalist. It looks like the Google of 2005, but with the power of 2026. When you perform a search, you'll see an Answer with AI button on the right side. Clicking this activates Leo, their built-in AI assistant. The layout is split screen. your traditional, high-privacy links on the left, and Leo's conversational summary on the right. There are no flashy animations, just clean, fast-loading text. The value of Brave Search is often measured in what it doesn't do. It doesn't track your IP, it doesn't build a shadow profile of your financial interests, and it doesn't sell your search history to data brokers. For a fintech professional, this is an enterprise-grade security feature. When you are searching for sensitive market indicators or pre-IPO data, the last thing you want is a trail of breadcrumbs leading back to your firm's strategy. Imagine you are investigating a potential arbitrage opportunity between two decentralized finance protocols. If you use a traditional search engine, your intent is indexed and potentially flagged by front-running bots. By using Brave's independent index and localized AI, you are operating with a level of stealth that the legacy web simply cannot provide. The killer feature here is Goggles. This allows you to apply community-driven filters to your search results. You can select a goggle that only shows results from small, independent tech blogs, or one that completely blocks any site with a heavy commercial bias. It allows you to curate your own version of the internet without the interference of big tech algorithms. However, because their index is independent and smaller than Google's, you might occasionally find that very obscure, long-tail technical queries don't surface as quickly as they would on a larger platform. But before we move on to the next tool, you need to understand that independence comes with a learning curve that most people aren't willing to climb. Microsoft has undergone a massive cultural shift, moving from the slow-moving giant of the desktop era to a leader in the cloud and AI space. Copilot is the manifestation of their attempt to own the professional workflow. The specific problem it solves is the siloing of information between your browser and your actual work applications. The interface is integrated directly into the Windows taskbar and the Edge browser. When you open Copilot in the browser, it appears as a vertical sidebar. This is brilliant because it doesn't require you to switch tabs. You can have a technical specification open on a website, and Copilot can see it. The sidebar has three distinct modes: creative, balanced, and precise. For anything involving financial data or technical documentation, you should always click Precise. This forces the model to stick closer to the search results and reduces the chance of hallucinations. The economic impact here is tied directly to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. If your company is already paying for E5 licenses, Copilot is essentially a zero marginal cost addition that scales with your team. The time saved by having an AI that can read a web page, summarize it, and then instantly draft a PowerPoint slide based on that summary is a massive productivity multiplier. Think about a high-stakes sales meeting where a client asks about a competitor's new pricing model that was released an hour ago. While the client is talking, you can have Copilot scan the competitor's site, extract the new pricing tiers, and compare them to your own offering. You go from being caught off guard to providing a data-backed rebuttal in real time. The hidden integration is the notebook feature. Instead of the standard chat interface, the notebook gives you a two-pane layout where you can put long-form prompts on the left and see the structured output on the right. It is designed for complex, multi-step tasks like writing an entire white paper or a detailed technical audit. The caveat here is the nag factor. Microsoft is incredibly aggressive about pushing you into their ecosystem, and the interface can often feel cluttered with suggestions you didn't ask for. The current search landscape is one size fits all, but that is a fundamental misunderstanding of how professionals work. A coder needs a different search experience than a hedge fund manager. U.com exists to solve this lack of customization through a modular, app-based search experience. When you enter the U.com interface, you'll see a series of horizontal tiles. Each tile represents a different source or app, like Medium, Twitter, Stack Overflow, or specialized financial news outlets. You can actually upvote or downvote these apps to tell the engine which sources you trust more. The AI agent, UChat, sits at the top, but the ability to see the raw data from your favorite sources in a side-by-side comparison is what makes it unique. For the power user, this is about reducing the churn of finding quality sources. If you know that the best insights for your specific industry come from 3 specific technical forums, you can pin those to the top of your search results. This customization creates a personal information moat. You are no longer relying on a generic algorithm. You are building a custom search engine that gets smarter the more you use it. Let's say you are monitoring the sentiment around a new enterprise software launch. Instead of scrolling through a generic newsfeed, you can set U.com to prioritize developer forums and real-time social feeds. You can see the technical bugs being reported in one column and the marketing hype in another. This allows for a level of multi-dimensional analysis that is impossible on a standard search page. The pro tip for U.com is the U-Write and U-Code integrations. You can take any search result and instantly pipe it into a coding assistant or a document generator without leaving the search environment. It is a complete end-to-end workstation. However, the UI can be overwhelming for the casual user. If you just want a quick answer to a simple question, the sheer amount of data and customization options might feel like overkill. If you are a developer, a standard search engine is almost useless. You don't want a summary of how to code. You want the code itself, and you want it to work in your specific environment. Phind is a specialized AI search engine built specifically for programmers. It solves the genericism of LLMs by grounding its answers in technical documentation and live code repositories. The interface is built for efficiency. It has a massive input box that encourages you to paste in your entire error message or a whole block of code. On the right side, it lists the specific documentations it is currently referencing, such as the official React docs or the Python standard library. The output is a mix of concise explanation and ready-to-use code blocks with a copy button that actually works. For a software engineering team, the ROI here is astronomical. If Phind can save a senior developer 10 minutes on every bug fix, and they fix 6 bugs a day, that is an hour of high-value labor reclaimed per developer. In a team of 10, you are effectively adding a whole new headcount for free. Think about a high-pressure situation where a production database is failing because of a weird concurrency issue. You don't have time to read through a dozen forum threads. You paste the logs into Phind, and it identifies the specific race condition, explains why it's happening in your version of Postgres, and gives you the exact SQL script to mitigate the issue. It is like having a staff engineer sitting next to you at all times. The pro tip for Phind is the pair programmer mode. You can sync it with your local VS Code environment, and it will use your actual project files as context for its searches. It doesn't just know how to code, it knows how you code. The caveat is that Phind is highly specialized. If you try to use it for general news or financial market analysis, it will perform significantly worse than a general-purpose engine like Perplexity or ChatGPT. The internet is currently facing a massive trust crisis. Anyone can write an article claiming that a certain financial strategy or medical treatment is effective, and SEO will push it to the top of Google. Consensus is an AI search engine that only searches peer-reviewed scientific research. It solves the problem of misinformation by providing answers that are backed by the global scientific community. The interface is clean and academic. When you ask a question, like, does remote work actually improve enterprise productivity? Consensus doesn't give you a blog post. It gives you a consensus meter that shows the percentage of studies that support a yes or no answer. Below that, it provides a list of the specific papers, their authors, and a summary of their findings. For the fintech and tech industries, this is the ultimate tool for evidence-based decision-making. Instead of following the latest thought leader on LinkedIn, you can look at the actual data on human behavior, cybersecurity threats, or economic trends. It allows you to build a strategy on a foundation of hard facts, rather than marketing hype. Imagine you are designing a new user interface for a trading app, and you want to know if dark mode actually reduces eye strain for power users. Consensus will give you the actual ophthalmological studies rather than just aesthetic opinions. The hidden integration here is the ability to save your searches into a citation manager. If you are writing a formal report for a board of directors, you can instantly export your findings in APA or MLA format, complete with links to the original studies. It gives your arguments an untouchable level of authority. The caveat, of course, is that scientific research moves slower than the tech world. If you are looking for information on a software library that was released last month, there won't be any peer-reviewed papers on it yet. But for the big, foundational questions of business and technology, there is no better source of truth. The era of trusting the first result on a search page is over. You now have a specialized arsenal of engines that can synthesize, verify, and execute. But remember, as these tools become more powerful, the most valuable skill isn't knowing how to search, it's knowing which question to ask.